What's up, world? Welcome back to iMix What I Like right here at iMix What I Like. Again, I'm Jared Ball, happy to be your host. Got a chance yesterday to swing around the corner to the Temple of New Afrikan Thought and meet up with my man, Dr. Dennis Ausar Winkler, for a discussion of his work. Got to have a really good meal and perhaps the start of a kind of new series. We'll see. Stay tuned. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and support the Patreon if at all possible. Join the channel if at all possible. Otherwise, just drop a comment and, of course, a like and put this in your socials. Big shout out again to Professor Winkler and the Temple of New Afrikan Thought. The link is in the show description. When you're in Baltimore, definitely come through and check it out. As always, peace. Only if you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say. Enjoy the show. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. First of all, I appreciate you doing this.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no. So tell us about the space. Where are we? What goes on around here? What's the situation?
Oh, you jumped right in. Okay, cool. No, I didn't even know we was live. But look, peace, family. Yeah. So what we do around here, that is one of the most difficult things for me to really explain. I'm not the best at it, but what I will say is, we're at Temple of New Afrikan Thought. That's our name, but our more out in the public name is TNET Holistic Wellness Center, which is a birth of Temple of New Afrikan Thought. What we do is holistic wellness, and what I mean by holistic wellness, I'm not speaking about pseudoscience. I'm saying holistic, mind, body, if you want to say spirit, if you want to say physicality, if you want to say financial, I know that's a piece for you, and if you want to say wherever it is that we need to balance ourselves out as black people to be our best selves. So, for example, on the bottom level, below here, my father has a martial arts studio where he actually does everything from internal martial arts like Tai Chi, Bakwa, Qigong. Then he also does more like Shorin Ryu Karate. My son, my father, some of his comrades, they do all those things downstairs. On this level, of course, this is our area where we have like a shop here where we sell things. But the idea was to have literature and just other accoutrements to kind of help people on their holistic health journey or their whatever it is. Because I upstairs. Then in the back, my wife has the Diaspora and Soul Jamaican American Fusion restaurant. So again, Diaspora and Soul Jamaican American Fusion restaurant, where we sell both traditional, I don't know what to call traditional, but we sell both vegan and non-vegan options. I like to say that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and the part is why the vegan option, we didn't want to just be, I don't even know if I like the term vegan option, because it's like, okay, when you go to restaurants many times, they're like, we have vegan options, and it'd be like broccoli and a side salad. And I'm saying I didn't want it to be that way, and I wanted us to, bring all the whole family together. So we have extensive vegan menu as well as a traditional menu. And because I'm vegan, I just recently started considering implementing some fish in my diet for some various reasons, but I've been vegan since 2009. So yeah, I'm kind of dibbling and dabbling with that in my mind right now. But nonetheless, that's where we are. And let's see.
But fish eaters could get something now, right?
Fish eaters.
If you're already a fish eater.
Yeah.
You have something.
Yeah, we have.
Now,
I think they have salmon, things like that. Grilled salmon, jerk salmon, just regular grilled salmon, thing like that, right? Yeah.
Well, that right there was fantastic. All the food is good.
Yeah.
So salute to that whole operation, your wife and whoever else is back there.
You can also get something if you eat chicken, and what else they do? They do oxtail too. They do a little beef, but they do chicken, fish, and we do a lot of vegan stuff. We have an extensive vegan menu. We have,
Good.
like
And then the books, the
herbs.
herbs.
You know, there's science, there's research around herbs, especially as it pertains to mental health, which will take us to the top floor. But you know, there's incense. There's different things, that help people, especially when it pertains to mental health. But also from a mental health perspective, we understand that it's a holistic perspective, meaning that your physical health has to also be taken care of as well. So that's why we do the martial arts. That's why we do the physical things. That's why we do the nature thing. That's why we do the food thing. That's why we have a variety of food. Healthy, some not as healthy. But some crossover food. All those type of things. We have the mock meat to the lentils and beans and legumes, which I'm actually part of me. Reason I'm considering the fish thing, I'm struggling with legumes, and it's doing some things to me. I've been doing hardened. Yeah, I'm.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm in a constant struggle myself with trying to get the right balance. And it's not as simple as just going vegan. You have to figure out some balances for your gut health. And
it's causing me some things. But so going upstairs, we have group rooms, we have individual counseling rooms, we have individual and group counseling rooms. And sometimes they can switch and become what they, all types of things. They can switch between the two. So we do individual counseling, family counseling, community counseling. And just to bring it back from upstairs down here, we do a lot of community events. You were one of our speakers in our community university series. You've been a part of our community university series. Even when we were down at the other space down there, we want to thank you for that. You've always bring that thunder. I always get in trouble when I bring you, but it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure because I like trouble. Everybody doesn't like it. When I say trouble, I mean challenging us intellectually in a way that's more consistent with reality, not what we want to have to just feel good. As a therapist, I have to practice, and I intentionally on not telling people things in a certain way that they can ingest it.
Right.
Although as one of your arguments is that you don't really care. People, it doesn't really matter how you say it. People won't be able to take it.
Sometimes. But to your point, especially in certain professional settings or certain instances, there is, I think, a need for a particular approach. So my argument isn't always 100% on, it's not a blanket universal argument. I think there are instances where you need a more tactical approach.
Yeah. And that goes to just to kind of build off that before you switch, is that, part of the things is what brought us, how I got to this point. I was born in what we call a black Senate struggle, black Senate, African Senate communities. I mean, my father used to take me down to African Liberation Day, take me to Dr. Ben lectures and all these type of things since I was young. So as I grew up and I got older, I was like, they used to have more things back when I was younger. Certain things was going on. I wanted to keep that tradition going. And that was part of it. I also wanted my children to have a space. I used to actually be a part of something called the Universal African Church here in Baltimore, which was pretty interesting. What it did do for me, it kept my mind there, hold up, Jesus is probably just my brother, whether now it's whether he existed or not, that thing. But it's if at best he's just another human, and all these other things. Yeah.
By the way, is that where the Ausar comes in on your name?
Oh yeah, so Ausar comes in because my father, of course, that tradition, when he was looking at it in his day, my father's name is Dennis, or he's not really good with Dennis anymore, but when you look at Dennis and the origins of Dionysus, then he traces it back to Ausar, right? So the Greek Dionysus.
Oh, wow, I never thought about it. That's interesting.
Yes.
I never thought to connect Dennis to Dionysus. That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's how that came about. So I'm just the second. My son is the third, although he has the name Makaru. So we do rites of passage and all that thing. So the Dr. Ben type of input, that kind of thought process my father was going through.
Just today, let me ask you about the rites of passage real quick, because just today a student asked me about one of the recent deaths on one of the Greek fraternity initiation processes. Like they were, somebody apparently was killed again, unfortunately, and they were asking me, what do I think about these processes? And part of my answer was that it's part of a natural component of humanity to do that with youth. The problem is we don't always have the right setup, and sometimes it goes awry, which is, I think, some of the issues with the Greek societies. So, but doing a rites of passage program yourself and having been through one, could you maybe say a word or two about the value of that, or why you think it's necessary or why is it necessary that there be a rites of passage?
I think personally, a rites of passage is important because, again, it marks a transition in your life, right? And you have to earn what that next level is. It's not just given to you. You just don't wake up and say, okay, I'm a man now, and you don't have any skills. Another reason why I think is really pivotal in our community now, because I know there's a lot of debate between cultural nationalism versus revolutionary nationalism and all these things, but I think culture is important. And culture tells us, as as many of our scholars say, tell us what we must do. As Dr. Marimba Adiz talks about, culture in her very simple terms is organized behavior. You know, so and that doesn't say that you don't have things as an individual, but I see that our community is there's this elder next generation gap, which I don't really espouse or really think is a reality or should be a reality in our community. I think it's more manufactured, and hence it. I think that's one of the pieces we have. It allows you to be ushered in by those who came before you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate. Yeah. And again, just one of the reasons why I've always liked the approach of involving some form of colonialism analysis is that it does, for me, collapse those divides between material and cultural. That all of it is a component, and all of it is involved in the process. So, but let me ask you a little bit about your work in particular, the upstairs part, right? Tell us a little bit about your approach to therapy, psychoanalysis. What is your sort of intellectual genealogy of that, your approach to that?
So, stepping back a bit, so I've always studied the mind. I've always been, even before I even got into the field, I've always been one who was very interested in those scholars who I would identify as thinkers. One of my favorites would be Dr. Amos Wilson. I'm talking, especially in the mental health realm, psychology realm. I have to add one part is what brought TNET about was also I was a member of the African Village and Culture Center. You ever heard of that before?
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah.
So with Dr. Ray Hagans. So
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So I was at one time a part of that particular organization because I was looking for that thing that was missing from my childhood. So I saw it out and here's Dr. Ray Hagans. I've grown since then. Still cool with all the people we're cool collectively. I actually became director of operations at the African Village and Culture Center internationally with Dr. Ray Hagans. And so what we did do at some time when it was best fit with Dr. Ray's understanding and all that type of thing, no love lost, that we evolved to TNET Holistic Wellness Center, or Temple of New African Thought. And so what I realized though in this work, because I've been an African Senate minister. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm a very different type of person. I think, honestly, closer to you. Closer. I'll be honest with you. I might not say atheist, but I'll be more like, maybe Gnostic type of thing. I don't know. I'm not.
That's interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to let you finish, but I'm always interested in how that journey is for people.
Yeah.
Because it's but anyway. So
I'm not a believer, just to be honest. I don't really believe in just believe things just to believe in things. However, I do think that there's energy. I do see things as art forms. I do see the transformative power in things. Culture, especially being one that I think is underutilized, which is also important. Which I think I appreciate your synthesis of what you said. What you say?
Colonialism, like I like the internal colonialism theory or analysis or anything that involves a colonialist, some sort of focus on colonialism, because it's an all-encompassing process. It is material, involves capitalist exploitation, all of that, but it is also cultural and immaterial and about manipulating worldview. So that's why I've always thought it was my way of always. In my mind, I used to think it was my way of synthesizing a marimba ani with a Walter Rodney, or something like that. Anyway,
right.
but that's so. My point is, I largely agree with what you're saying. I at least appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah. So culture is very important in the healing piece or the mental health piece, as because the reason why I say it's important is not just because it's anecdotal, right? Or it's just something that feels good. It has to go past the feel good, right? Culture tells you what you ought to do. Culture also, in this society where we've been trained to look at ourselves in a very negative way, and also untrained to really communicate with each other or to relate with one another, we're dealing with a lot of trauma. Yeah. So I take a very trauma-informed cultural approach because, again, to say it's not just anecdotal is that research even supports it. Research supports that culture itself is a mitigating or a buffering mechanism against racism and white supremacy, if we want to call it that. And it's factual. It's not something that we're just making up. In fact, my dissertation was entitled "Measuring the Relationship of Race-Based Trauma, Black Identity, and Spirituality." So, and some of and this is one of my debates a bit. I understand the importance of spirituality, what have you. I understand the importance of culture. I don't see the difference. I think they're all the same. But you don't. Everything doesn't have to be real.
Right.
But what is it doing for you? Like I don't like. For example, my sons and them got these stones over here. Do I believe in those? Do I personally think they have powers?
Right.
I don't.
Right.
I think they're good for nature. I think they come from the earth. If I was to deal with them, it'd be more like I'm tapping into nature.
Right.
Now, some people come in here, they get it as, I think, placebo. There's research behind it that says that it does a thing. Now, the problem is, for me, is when that placebo is no longer working, when that religion is no longer serving you, when that spiritual idea is no longer serving you. So the thing is, to me, is about balance. I say, okay, if we're going to use Mayat, let's really use our left brain and our right brain. If we're going to talk about the ancient Egyptians or Chemetians or whatever you want to call it, we have to talk about the science aspect as well. We just can't continue to talk about the greatness of from a cultural, intangible standpoint. I say that we struggle with appreciating the material because we have had to depend on the ethereal too much. So I say that we don't appreciate the material because we had to really, the only thing we had was the ethereal. So we overvalued it to kind of help us feel and cope with the reality that we didn't have things materially, And so I say we're strong in that area. But the problem comes from me is that we have to balance that out. And you overvalue things to help you cope with your reality of not having. And we get stuck there. So my whole goal is, if you want to use Mayat, do I believe Mayat live? No, I don't. The principles, truth, justice, balance, harmony, order, reciprocity, I think we can utilize those. Now, balance. Should we balance ourselves? Yes. Should we be in harmony? Yes, we should. Can we utilize it and look at this system, how this system is chaotic right now? Most of us are really losing our minds right now. And I'm saying, well, the system is chaotic. That is room for opportunity if we are intentional about it. So again, it's about us being in balance and harmony in ourselves so that we can see what's going on out here and not get caught up or overridden by our emotions. So yeah, it's a very African-centered, very black, very different than what we get in a Eurocentric model. I was taught at white schools is very boring. I'm sorry. Just pardon. I just even, I mean, I actually just, to be honest, I hope they don't watch this. I actually reached out to the white school that I taught at as assistant professor, just because I don't want them to cut my my access to database. Say, can I teach a class?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So I want to keep that along with what's going on because there's certain
access is real, man.
Yeah, and then there's also certain databases that
so much.
At this private
Perfect. Thank you.
at this private white institution that Bowie doesn't have, or University of Maryland system. No, good. It's fine. I'm used to it.
Cause
You want to give him a picture? You want to give him a shot of it? Tell him come on out.
I mean, I'm saying, look at this right here. Look at that. Look at that right here. Nice, affordable, vegan, delicious, freshly made. About to get demolished. I might have to I might need to split this up.
Okay.
I should split this up. Let's see how greedy I am. But anyway, please, I'm sorry, continue.
So my goal here and our goal here, with some struggle, I mean, honestly, just recently, I just have to. I hear you speaking about people taking intellectual property and things of that nature. I mean, even in our own movies, I don't even think we realize how people have taken intellectual property. People have taken the model that we talk about here, and then they go out and do it in their individual ways. You know, so it's kind of a thing that I've just come to the conclusion with. But the reality is, and it's not about, okay, you keep things. It's about what are people's intent with it? Are you taking things just to go out there and individually do things, or are you going out there and building more community, more collectives, more structures, or are you just trying to get famous? A brother just dropped I'm gonna switch back, but a brother just dropped something on me yesterday. He said, be wary of those who are trying to build off you rather than with you.
Yeah.
I was like, dang.
No, that's very real. Like, why couldn't you just, instead of duplicating what I did, why didn't you help me do what I'm doing?
Yeah, and they ain't even duplicating it. Why I'm saying they're not duplicating it? Some of my closest comrades, I had to come to grips, is that you're not duplicating, you're just trying to go out there and be the next Clark. You're trying, I mean, what I mean by that, you just, but in an individual way, not as pure or as authentic as that. Or you're not duplicating what's going on here. Why? Because you're not doing it in a collective sense. You're not doing it as a body. You're not doing it as that type of thing. But yeah, the struggle is real. That's all I can say. So, but what I'm saying is the mental health piece. You just posed that question the way I did when I answered it in that way. It was like the mental health piece is important, is essential, and I realize now. Everybody often says that you got to do this piece, or before you do this piece and that piece. I do honestly, and I'm not saying I don't. I can't say what needs to happen and what before what, and I'm not that smart. But what I do know is we can continue trying to build organization and not deal with mental illness or the trauma that the society has caused us, which also trickled down to what our parents has caused us, and think that we're going to build a thing, and we'll continue to be disappointed. Because the reality is all the struggles we see in our organization has a lot to do with the mental makeup of our community. And I'm saying that, I'm talking about not understanding each other. I'm talking about, I am telling you, I maintain that a lot of us are neurodivergent even, and we don't know it.
Yeah.
And it's not even a problem if you know it, and then we know how to deal with it. I'm talking about not just us who is or who is not, but those of us who are. Because why you talk so straight to me? Why you don't have feelings? Why do I feel disconnected? This is happening every day in relationships. Our problem in our community, we're doing all this work, but we are not dealing with the core issue, which is mental health, trauma, neurodiversity, and all this stuff is so confusing that sometimes you cannot differentiate. And on a real level, can you truly differentiate what the difference between neurodiversity or neurodivergence and trauma? Because in fact, what I argue is that if a person is neurodivergent, perhaps when they were being developed in the womb, their mother was creating a person that could come out and deal with the warfare that's going on out here. Because there is talk and theory and things around that. Probably even research supports that when your mother is hyper aroused at times, it has to create a certain nervous system in the child. So now the child comes out with ADHD or ADD or whatever type of divergence that a person can have. It's very difficult to tease that out. It's very difficult to understand the difference between a person who's narcissistic, and I think that we can reframe what is narcissistic, because narcissistic is just a traumatic disorder. What it is a person who felt abandoned, a person who didn't feel loved, a person who had to learn to survive, and so they had to cut off and become very cold. So they live the world in a way where they observe, they can see what's going on, they understand emotional things, they have to survive. So that's part of their personality. When your personality is developed, it gives you certain skills, it gives you certain weaknesses, gives you certain strengths. But a person who is dealing with any of those cluster B personality disorder has dealt with trauma. So, and I say you gotta give them some empathy too. The reality is they will hurt you though. And sometimes they can't feel nor do they understand what's going on, because on an intellectual level, people see things who dealt with trauma in very black and white sense. And that is the struggle that we have in our community. You're either right, you're wrong, you're in, is this or that, you're in or out. Yeah. So that's why we struggle with relationships. So I do argue, maintain that the work that we do is that we have to build those relationships. That goes back to something that I picked up from you and all the things, the work that you do, is this idea from the Panthers, or who was it, Huey P. Newton? No, not Huey P. Newton. Fred Hampton, talking about liberation. I looked it up, and people said it before him, but nonetheless, I think whoever was coined it and made it more popular. As far as there's there's survival programs.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Pending revolution.
Yeah. So, pending revolution, say.
The idea is that the programs are while we wait for revolution, while we build the revolution, not just wait for it, but while we build it, this is what we're doing in the interim.
So yes, so I maintain is that a lot of the work we're doing here is a part of survival programs pending revolution. But I also argue that is needed for revolution. I also argue that it is, I understand your frustration with it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that people don't understand the difference.
Right.
They begin to conflate survival programs for revolution. And then what happens is when they hear you come along and you're saying what you're saying, they think you're saying not to do that.
Right. That's a good summary. I might need to clip that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Well, let me back up a little bit. When you say this is the temple of New African thought, tell me about, or explain how you approach this concept of New African. What does the New African mean?
So I approach it both ways. I approach it the way that many of our elders and ancestors have approached it, is that we are a group or ethnic group here in America. That way. I also approach it that we have to have new ways of thinking. We have to look at things differently. We have to evolve. So these are the ways I look at it. We can't get stuck with rudimentary or outdated ideas. And I'm not talking about from the 60s. I think some of the stuff people keep saying don't do from the 60s or 70s, especially, which they calling outdated, we need to do more of. I'm not, but what I'm really talking about is, if I'm looking at ancient Kemet, you gotta have to evolve that a bit for me. We can't get stuck with just putting on clothes like the pharaohs. Now, I can take the principles, and I think they're powerful. Honestly, I don't even know if let me not go there. I don't even care, honestly, whether or not the pharaohs is white, black, none of that. If it's an African-centered, if it is an African-centered allegory, okay. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, doesn't. It doesn't really matter to me, as long as if it's been Africanized and it's helpful, let's do it. Because that's what people do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, how many other mythologies do people work off of for their own purposes? And everybody, people talk all the time, people need a myth of origin. So people create even fantasies about their own people to motivate themselves in the moment. So.
Yeah.
What has it been like being over here? Excuse me. On this, in this, from the move from one space to the other, but also being here in Baltimore and building a space like that in this city. What is that like for people who've never done that or been on that side of the issue before?
Building like this space.
Yeah, like for instance, I don't know anything about finding a place, picking a location. What has the city's response been? What has the neighborhood's response been?
Okay, so for me, and this is one of the things I also want to point out, where people kind of get, I think, confused with you. Look, you say, I'm keep talking about you, please correct me if I'm wrong. But they get confused that you say black businesses aren't important. They believe that you are anti-black business. Yeah. Because again, as I told the people in at Temple New African Thought the other day, is sometimes we get stuck where our trauma is. We don't hear the whole picture. We hear what is a threat to the image that we have in our mind. So we don't listen to the whole thing because we're being triggered because of the trauma. So we feel that we have to defend, and once you feel like you have to defend, then you can't think, you can't reason, you can't even empathize because now you're in survival mode. So I think it's really important that we really deal with this mental health. But in starting business, I've been a person that's look, I'm gonna say the word business person or entrepreneur. Whatever. Look, Geechee, don't get me, man. Look, I don't know what word you want me to use. I'm just saying for the people, for a social entrepreneur, whatever it is, I don't know what's the proper word at times. I even switch it up for the what's the show used to come on Fridays with y'all?
EYL.
EYL, yes. I don't know what to switch it up to. The message got to get up to the people some kind of way. But what I'm saying is, I've been a business person since I was young, especially in my young ages, right? So business is not difficult for me. It's difficult for lots of people. This is what I'm getting to. I think people should respect business people, but not over-respect those who don't serve our communities. And what I mean by that is it's kind of like you, right? You are a professor, amongst other things. But as a professor, the community can come out and talk about how weak professors are and how they are part of the ivory tower. And some of that, if you look at it, is true.
Yeah.
But the reality is now they'll throw you in there and you're not one of those.
Right.
And I want to be clear, and even for my brother Geechee, who says that your motive is profit. And I'm going to tell you, if it was profit, I wouldn't be doing it the way I'm doing it. And I'm sorry, brother Geechee, but people can't believe that. I'm sorry if that's what books say, but there's many of us, maybe not enough of us, that are here doing things that is past profit. And one thing people would say, I heard Baba Nati say the other day, they said, what keeps you going? Now, Brother Nati said something, what keeps you going? What keeps you in business? What is the secret sauce, they asked him. He said it's dedication. And what he meant by dedication, those who are really truly looking for profit and will not put their own money, their own time, and actually not even make money. Now, that's the thing that people don't talk about. Businesses don't always make money.
Right.
And sometimes you have to lots of times, I'm talking about to keep a place open like this, you have to invest your own time, your own money, even your paycheck that you get from other places or whatever. And sometimes you're in the red. I'm not saying you're always in the red, nor should you be always in the red. But what I am saying is that is what keeps certain people in business, where other people who try these things in the name of being revolutionary, they close down because they weren't willing to go through that struggle. And I'm saying that is how it's been. I mean, I've done all types of businesses, since I was young. I mean, made all types of money, just to be honest with you. But as I got older, I became more socially, like what my father was saying, because people was trying to make me Christian. And they was like, look, so I had to, so I said, hold up. It's like, look, you're going to hell. I was like, going to hell? Like, personally, I didn't know that was a real thought. Like, that's because I was in the conscious circles. I never knew the hold that Christianity had on our people. I never knew that hold until an African sister who I thought was African. My father taught me I was African, and now this sister's like, Dennis, she's really crying. I'm taking her down to this. Look. Now, don't judge me, but it was a network marketing event that I learned how to invest in real estate from. I did learn how to invest in real estate. I was taking her down to Virginia, and she telling me I'm going to hell if I don't professing Jesus Christ, died on the cross, rose again on the third day, and all this type of thing. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, you really believe that? I said, so if I do good, this is an African sister. And she said, I said, so if I do good, you mean to tell me I'm going to hell if somebody else do bad, they're not? And as long as they have to do is professing Jesus Christ. And she said, yes, Dennis. And she was really serious about it. And I'm driving her, what's that, 300 miles to help her with a business opportunity, how to invest in real estate and all this type of thing. And the thing I realized, I'm really trying to help my community. And that what I had at my avail.
You going to hell?
I'm going to help. I mean, I'm going out of my way with the tools that I thought were correct at that time. But I'm going to hell. So I said, hold up, Bible. What's that? I said, all right, so let me pick that book up you told me about. Anthony Browder book, this book, that book. Right. And that's how at some point I came along and I got, started studying what Dr. Reed was saying and different people like that. But nonetheless, how has this been? I know I went around the bush.
No, it's good.
So I'm good business-wise. I'm going to tell you about Dr. Ball. Look. Man to man. I think that you said that, and I agree that other people's skills need to be also acknowledged. And I'm going to buckle down for those of us who are out here, who are working in the community in the business sense. It takes a lot more than even the average person who's going along with the program. So I'm suggesting, I maintain that we do kind of also lift them people up because it is a struggle. It is a struggle. I mean, like you said, it's hard work, but it's a beautiful work. It's a beautiful work when you serve in your community. That's the part. Profit is not always the end goal, although you need profit to exist. And that's what I want to argue and maintain.
Well, part of the difference is what is done with the profit. If the profit that you make as is necessary to survive in this work, if it's used to put back into the business, to the community, to help you, to put aside so when you're in the red, you got something to lean back on. That's different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than the profit being exclusively to the benefit of you and whatever stockholders. Or
absolutely.
Like that. So that's
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's what we get stuck in. And I say, I say I don't support black business. I support black business that support black people.
There you go. Right
you know what I mean? And not every black business supports black people. And we can go how race, even in our own communities, is being weaponized against us. But yeah. So it's been relatively, it's my skill set.
Yeah.
It's part of my personality profile. I'm high on conscientiousness, order, structure, dutifulness. That's what you ever done a personality profile?
Have I what?
I have completed a personality profile. I'm talking about a real one, like a 5-factor model.
No, I don't think I have.
Yeah, so if you ever want one, highlight your boy. So I'm saying all these things are important to even understand personality. It's important to understand personality because personality will tell you who you are. Personality is a very rigid construct. And when we know about people's level of dutifulness, their lack of therefore, or their how conscientious, how agreeable they are, how agreeableness is a thing where you want everybody to get along and all that type of thing. Then there's people who just are agreeable. But they're not going to change.
So since, but since so one of the things I meant to ask you for today is, like, I'd like to do this more often with you and other people. If we like meet here and have lunch and rap. Yeah. Maybe the next time how long does that test take? I'll sign up and take
I'll send you a link. And then you do it at home, we come discuss it.
Oh yeah, all right, yeah, let's do that. I think that'd be a fun little, experiment exercise, and have the reveal of my personality on it. Is there anything else you would want to say right now before we kind of wrap and I get a box because I'm going to save the rest of this?
He might as well finish that.
No, I know I should, but I'm trying to.
He got scraps. No, but go ahead. That might be a good late night snack.
I got to spread it out.
Yeah. That's one of those ones where you're like, should I go? Should I not go?
I know, it's so good though. It is so good though.
Yeah.
Vegan curry chicken, by the way. But anyway, is there anything, like sort of like a parting shot for the moment, so to speak?
Well, I'll say I thank you for coming by. I'm going to do the street slang. They say real recognize real. Yeah. And because I understand that and I've told you this before, I understand how difficult the work is, although it looks easy. I'm talking about especially debunking myths that we want to hold on to. I do a lot of that. I've been doing that for years, and it can be taxing on your body. So we have to take care of ourselves when we're doing that, because the reality is when everybody in the room is thinking something different, and they're not recognizing the level of study and I see it. I mean, I see you on the show, and I'm saying that for a reason. Because the reality is sometimes it's very hard to be in a position. I'm sorry, pardon. To be in a position in the community and also be a PhD like Dr. Ball and having to walk this tightrope but not trying to be seen as I'm an Ivy Tower or think I'm better because I have this PhD. Where I do believe that we need to know, we have to learn what a person goes through to get to those processes, which has informed and carved the way that they can see things that perhaps they could be wrong. But the way their brain and their mind's been trained is to look for patterns and look at things on statistical levels, even though they might not be using formulas that other people just don't do. It's the struggle for them to do it. It's a struggle for people who have the training to do it. But they're so trained to do it, to see the patterns and things of that nature. It's not saying one is better or one is know-it-all, but if you went to your physician, you would realize that he or she could be wrong, but at the same time they are trained. Sometimes we struggle with that. We go to an engineer. We will realize that engineer has training, and he or she has the best skills necessary to examine what the potential pitfalls or the problems are and come up with solutions. So similarly, someone like Dr. Ball, someone who is here for our people, someone who has our greatest intent, although there's great resistance, I say, take a breath, breathe, and listen to the brother. Because if you truly listen to the brother, you will realize that he has much to give. And if you want to use ancient Egyptian or Kemetic stuff, it says, try to understand the heart, not the words, because they are confusion. So try to dig into the brother's heart, because he means well and the work is not easy. And I'm saying that for you, because I'm also saying it for me and people who are out here who put in certain levels of work to have certain levels of understanding. Not to say we can't be incorrect, but the reality is every professional can be incorrect. But the reality is there is a skill set in which you've dedicated your time to. Thank you for coming out.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Peace.
I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.